Good evening, and welcome to tonight's discussion, one of a series of virtual events that Metrolinx is holding in September and October for all of the Ontario Line station areas. My name is Joseph Thornley. I'm the CEO of 76 Engage, Metrolinx's public engagement partner for virtual consultation, and I will be your moderator for tonight's event. During tonight's session, we'll be focusing on the downtown segment of the Ontario Line, which includes stations at Queen, Moss Park, and Corktown. If you have questions about other parts of the Ontario Line, you can see replays of events that we've already held or register for upcoming events and obtain information there about the other parts. Tonight, we're focusing on the downtown segment. Now, one important note, you have the opportunity to turn on closed captioning if you'd like to have closed captioning during the event. Just move your cursor down to the bottom of the video screen and hover over the CC icon and click on it, and that will turn on closed captioning. So as we begin, let's take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers and immigrants in this generation or generations past. Marshall, could you put that slide up, please? Metrolinx declares its commitment to building meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge the historic and continued impacts of colonization and the need to work towards meaningful reconciliation with the original caretakers of this land. We acknowledge that Metrolinx operates on lands covered by 20 treaties and that we have a responsibility to recognize and value the rights of Indigenous nations and peoples and conduct business in a manner that is built on the foundation of trust, respect, and collaboration. Slide, please, Marshall. So also before beginning, Metrolinx is safety minded, and we like to start off these sessions with a safety moment. So it's important that we understand that safety is fundamental to everything that Metrolinx done. So for today's safety moment, we wanted to highlight that face coverings and masks remain an important tool for preventing the spread of COVID-19. Here on the slide, we've included some reminders about do's and don'ts when it comes to masks and face coverings. Please continue to follow the public health advice and stay safe out there. Advance the slide, please, Marshall. As I mentioned, we are focusing on the downtown segment of the Ontario Line tonight. We've scheduled a session to last an hour and a half until 8 p.m. We'll start the presentation with a presentation by members from the Metrolinx team focusing on the downtown segment, which, as I said, includes Queen, Moss Park, and Corktown stations. You can download the presentation if you want to have it for later reference by clicking on the Ontario Line presentation PDF link on presentation materials just under call-in questions on your screen. After we have heard the presentation, we'll start to take questions from the written questions that you've submitted. Now, as we go through those, I will try to deal with the questions that have been most voted for. So if you haven't yet looked at the questions, I'd encourage you to take a second, review the questions that are there, and upvote the ones that you would like to be answered verbally tonight. Of course, if we don't get to the questions in the session, don't worry. Metrolinx has been going through the questions after each event, and they've been answering the major topic questions so that they may not answer every single question because sometimes there's some overlap, but they are answering all of the topics. So every subject area will be dealt with. After the written questions, we'll move on, and we have hopefully a Zoom room where you can ask audio questions. Now, Zoom was having a bit of trouble just before we started, so we're going to take a leap into the great unknown after the questions, and hopefully it will be up and working. If not, we'll come back here and take more of the written questions. So again, as we go through the presentation, if you hear something new in tonight's presentation and you want to ask a question about the new info, please feel free to just use the Q&A on this page, and I'll look at the new questions that have been submitted. And if we don't do the audio, I will ask the new questions that have been submitted during the meeting. So we'll get to your questions one way or the other. So with that, I'd like to just remind you again, there's closed captioning for people who would like to have it turned on. Just click the CC at the bottom of your screen. And now I'd like to introduce our panel. Tonight from Metrolinx, we have Richard Tucker, who is the Ontario Line Project Director. With Richard is Malcolm Mackay. He's the sponsor for the Ontario Line Project. And with them is Franca Di Giovanni, who is the Director of Community Engagement for Subways. And finally, we're rounded out with someone who is doing his first of these meetings, Aaron Scott, who is a technical advisor for the Ontario Line. So welcome, Richard, Malcolm, Franca, and Aaron. Over to you, Malcolm.
Thank you, Joseph. Very much appreciated. And thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We do appreciate your time that you're investing into these virtual open houses. If we go to the next slide, Marshall. Tonight's agenda, we're going to be talking about the Queen Station construction. That's at Queen and Yonge Street. We're going to be touching on the Moss Park station and revitalization, Porktown Station and the First Parliament site. Then we're going to run through what's coming up next and then jump into our question and answer section. Next slide, Marshall. So first off, we're going to talk about Queen Station. Next slide. Queen Station is a very interesting station. It is one of the most difficult stations in the entire alignment that we're going to be building. It's right downtown. If you know the corner of Yonge and Queen Streets, you know that on each of the four corners, there's very tall buildings, making it very difficult for us to do the conventional mine operation that we're using elsewhere. What we're doing is we're making sure that we have entrances on all four corners, and we're making sure that as a part of our work that we're going to maintain the vitality associated with this very important intersection. If we go to the next slide. Queen Station, as you can see here, is very deep. We're directly underneath the existing Line 1 station, which makes for an absolutely excellent transfer, the shortest transfer. Work when it was the Relief Line South had the station a little bit west of this location, which made for a much longer transfer. By shifting under the station, under the existing Queen Station, it also allows us to do a method of construction that allows the Line 1 Queen Station to remain in operation during the entire construction period. Next slide. In order for us to build the station, we're doing a form of construction called open cut construction. That means that we're going to be digging a hole in this very narrow street and building the new subway and going under the existing subway. Queen Street's going to be closed from Victoria Street through to Bay Street. We're going to maintain Bay Street being open. We're going to maintain Yonge Street being open, as well as Victoria Street. James Street, which is just west of Yonge Street, will be closed going north. But we're going to make Albert Street into a two-way street so that there's access to the courthouse as well as the Eaton Centre. We're making sure that all of the entrances are going to be remain open. The pedestrian sidewalks are going to remain open. It's the auto and cyclists that we'll be providing a safe detour for, as well as we're working quite closely with the TTC for streetcar diversion. And I'll talk about that on the next few slides. Line 1, the station at Queen, will remain open during the entire construction period, as will the access to the path network. Deliveries for businesses in the area are all protected as a result of the closure plan that we are currently putting in place. And this closure plan is going to be going to the City Council for approval. Next slide. We've been working quite closely with TTC on this road closure, and we've developed a 501 streetcar diversion that will allow us to use both the Adelaide as well as Richmond streets to detour around the closure. The Adelaide Street currently doesn't have a streetcar on it. It's paved over. And this is a long sought after TTC priority to provide some resilience to the streetcar network. So this is actually a positive outcome as a result of the Queen closure, which will allow us to invest in this long sought after project. Next slide. So what to expect next? Well, this summer, we've been holding stakeholder consultation for the long-term closure. Throughout the fall, we're going to be briefing the BIAs and the community. And then throughout the winter of 2022, we're going to start some early works for the utilities and then construction starting in 2023. What I'd like to do is just ask Franca to fill us in on some of the community outreach that we're going to be doing as a result of this closure. Franca?
Thanks very much, Malcolm. So good evening, everyone. Yes, certainly building a subway in the heart of the city is a big challenge. And we know that many of you probably over the summer heard a little bit about the Queen Street closure. And we've been starting since that time to reach out to some of the local stakeholders, including some of the residents associations and, of course, the business community. The business community in this area is very vibrant. There are about 3 BIAs who are directly or very nearly directly affected. And so we've been working and to discuss with them their concerns. We understand every time we do infrastructure projects in Toronto, we learn more and more about how to improve business support programs, how to minimize the impact on the local community. And we intend to apply a lot of those lessons that we continue to learn. We know that we will have to have a very robust signage system. We're lucky that in this area, the path system continues to function, and some of the larger business community members have very strong networks. And so we will be working closely with them to make sure that the word goes out so that clients continue to come to the area throughout the construction and businesses continue to thrive. So that's a lot of the work that we're undertaking right now. There are, of course, questions, and we will continue to work through some of the different concepts. As this slide shows, there are different pieces, and it will go through a few iterations until we get into the heart of the construction. So we do have some time to make sure that we're working on those plans and to make sure that we're coordinating well with city partners as well to make sure that we're maintaining access and planning for the best pedestrian possibility and maintaining those cycling networks as well, even while we are identifying that the road network will be closed to cars for the period of this construction. So that's where we are now, and we continue that dialogue over the coming months and years as we get ready for this construction.
Super, Franca. Thank you so much. If we go to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about Moss Park Station and the revitalization of the park that's going to be undertaken. Next slide. So in context, those of you that know Moss Park know that it's a large green space in a very vibrant urban development. Moss Park Arena and Community Center is there, and it's on the main streets of Queen Street and Sherbourne Street. Next slide. So as we were developing the concepts for the station, and the station design and location is very similar to that was being undertaken for the Relief Line South, we considered the local businesses and what the impact of this construction would be on those local businesses. We looked at the community, and there's communities that are very important that the station serves. We looked at the traffic and modeled the traffic impacts and making sure that the surface transit network was maintained throughout the construction period. We looked at the connectivity of both the surface network to the underground network, as well as people being able to get into the station from the local communities. We, of course, take into account the tree canopy and the environmental impacts of some of the decisions that we've been made. And then there's the constructability of the station that is part of the equation when you're building in a dense urban environment like downtown Toronto. Next slide. So the station location, as we have it, and as the Relief Line South had it, has the shortest construction period. It's 6 months shorter than a mined type of construction, and it has a better opportunity for us to be able to integrate with the city's park. The tree canopy on the south edge of Moss Park, an arborist report was done for the Relief Line South, and it indicated that there were a large number of trees there that were in unhealthy condition. We're doing our own arborist report to make sure and confirm those results. But we have a very active tree planting and replacement program that will be working quite closely with Toronto Parks and Forestry to make sure that the programming spaces that are made available as a result of the construction will be properly prepared for the future of Moss Park. Next slide. So there's a number of projects that are happening on this side. There's a new community recreation center that the city's contemplating, as well as the Metrolinx subway construction and the laydown area that's necessary to support that. We've been working quite closely with Parks and Forestry on that, as well as the community center, to make sure that this is all staged very well to support both projects going forward. Next slide. What I'd like to do is pass it over to Aaron. And Aaron, maybe you can talk about the work that's been undertaken with the arena board and the design that we have going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Malcolm. And good evening, everyone. So as you can see on the screen here, that the station head house that's being constructed in that southeast corner of Moss Park, as part of that project, we're also enhancing and upgrading the existing parking infrastructure at Moss Park. So there's been discussion with the arena board and altering the existing car parking into a more useful and user-friendly experience for the Moss Park arena users. Next slide there, Marshall. And as Malcolm alluded to at Moss Park, there's various pieces of infrastructure and integration required with various stakeholders and third-party coordination. So effectively at Moss Park Station, there's a Moss Park Revitalisation Project. There's our design and construction timeframes between our project, the Ontario Line, and the Moss Park Revitalisation Project. What we see are meshing together so we create a outcome that's as clean as possible for the schedules for both projects. Then we go through the reinstatement of the park with the soil cover, etc. So the Ontario Line will create a space for the revitalisation of the park and the future project for that park. In 2020 and about June 2020, we started our extensive discussions with the city around the park. And obviously through those discussions, we've looked at the concepts, we've moved various aspects of the station in consultation with the city, including some setback allowances to create the best visual amenity of this corner of Moss Park. Next slide there, Marshall. As Malcolm also alluded to, that a key part to this is around the trees, and there's various conversations that are ongoing and continue to happen around the various aspects of the trees and the surveys and the arborist reports, etc. around that. So we're obviously working with the city and the compensation strategies. There's working with the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, the TRCA, to repurpose some of the wetland restoration projects, and also working with the Toronto Parks, Forestry and Recreation Division and the community to explore park enhancements, tree planting, etc. in the neighbourhood. Next slide there, thanks. And then this is just an overview of the concept for Moss Park. You can see obviously the orientation of the head house and the connectivity to the local infrastructure and the streetcar network, but also how it's set back to create that visual amenity and creates a constant language in that corner of the park. And then I'll pass it back to you, Malcolm, for the next piece. Thanks.
Super. Thank you, Aaron. Much appreciated. Next slide. So as we mentioned, we're collaborating quite closely with the Moss Park revitalization. This is a timeline that shows in purple dots or pink dots the Moss Park revitalization, and then the orange dots are the Ontario line. You can see that in the summer of 2023, the construction begins for the station, and then following that in 2024, the Moss Park revitalization will commence with the construction of the new recreation center. Those are all being coordinated and collaborated with the city to make sure that it's a seamless integration. Next slide. So some of the key accomplishments that we've had to date is we've had extensive outreach with landscape architects and consultants to develop a plan. We've had broad public engagement regarding Moss Park and how we're doing this and why we're doing this. And of course, the Moss Park Arena Board has been consulted throughout the entire process to make sure that they understand how they can continue operations even during construction. Our next steps are to complete the tree survey and the archaeological investigations that have to be done in advance of construction, and the full environmental site assessment, which is due in November of 2021. And then ongoing stakeholder engagement in the setting up of community tables to be able to fully engage members of the community in the developments happening at Moss Park. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about Corktown Station in the First Parliament site. Next slide. So by way of context, there's two sites. There's the north site where the station box is going to be, and then the south site, which is where the construction, launch, and staging of the tunnel boring machines will occur in support of the entire Ontario line from the Don Valley all the way through to at least Queen Station, if not all the way to Exhibition. Archaeological assessments have actually started in this area. There's a very active engagement with the City of Toronto and the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism and Culture and the Indigenous nations to uncover the First Parliament site, which is in the south area of the station site. Next slide. So there's a long storied history at the First Parliament site. The Indigenous peoples, many communities have lived on this site for centuries, well before colonialism. And then there was the subsequent occupation periods, the parliamentary era, where the first two Parliament buildings were built. The first one burnt down, and during the War of 1813, and the second burned down from an overheated chimney flue in its day. It was subsequently the home of a district jail, and then eventually became a consumers gas complex where gasification occurred, and that's where the contamination of this site has occurred. And that's another very positive outcome of the work that's being undertaken here, is that site will be decontaminated as a result of the building that's going to be going on here. And the archaeological finds in the area are going to be discovered and proudly displayed as part of a commemoration plan. Next slide. And that's where we are today. We're working with the city, we're working with the ministries, we're working with the First Nations people, we're working with the communities to take the work that was originally done by the Ontario Heritage Trust and the City of Toronto in the development of an interpretation commemoration plan, And now we're actually taking it and we're going to be implementing it. We're going to be reaching out to the city and having open tables where we can discuss the themes of the site and the storied history of the site. So that's upcoming and it's exciting, and it's something that we're really looking forward to implementing and discovering along with yourselves. There's a number of cross-cutting themes. It's diverse people, impact, connections, and growth of the city, as well as the long and storied Indigenous times that the lands were used before settlers. Next slide. Infrastructure Ontario is going to be, after we're done with the transit build on this site, creating a transit-oriented community. That's being done by Infrastructure Ontario. They have a website set up called engageio.ca/en, and that's where you can find out more about what the long-term plans are for the site after the Ontario line is built and commissioned. And we welcome you to engage Infrastructure Ontario with that. Next slide. So what's next? The Corktown Station early works construction has begun. We're preparing for some demolition on the site, all in preparation for the beginning of the construction of the Ontario line. The engagement, as I talked about on the last slide, for First Parliament interpretation and commemoration plans is upcoming, and stay tuned for that. There's going to be many more opportunities just like this for virtual open houses where we can get feedback, direct and indirect, from yourselves and be able to answer some of your questions. Obviously, we're going to have in-person meetings, and I think those are coming up sooner than what might have been expected, and that's great news because when we have had the opportunity to meet people in person, it's a much better environment for both of us. Our environmental assessment impact reports, it's coming out in draft in January 2022 for public feedback, and then will be finalized in April 2022 with the feedback incorporated. Next slide. As always, we thank you very much for your time tonight. We're going to be flipping over to the question and answer period in a few moments, but there are different ways to keep in touch with us. One is our email, ontarioline@metrolinx.com, and we welcome you to call us at 416-202-5100. Go to our website, metrolinx.com/OntarioLine, and please sign up for our newsletter. That way you can keep well informed of all of the events that are coming up. And again, thank you for your time tonight. We look forward to your questions that you're going to be asking of us. And I will pass it over to Joseph. Joseph.
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Thank you to the Metrolinx team for that presentation. So we now have the chance to answer your questions. I think when I last counted, there were almost 55 questions that you've submitted previously. And I've been checking, and I see that you have been submitting questions during the meeting. So we'll make an effort to answer the most voted for questions first. First, I got to do something that is very spontaneous, and I have no idea whether this is going to work because, as I said, we were having some trouble with the Zoom room beforehand. So I'm just going to do an audible check to see whether indeed Kelly Thornton can hear me and whether we can hear her. Kelly, can you hear me?
Hi, Joseph. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
That is marvelous. That's great. So
okay.
Then what I will say to you is after we've done the written questions, you will be able to ask your questions over in the Zoom room where Kelly is. And if you want to get there, you can simply click on the yellow Join Zoom button that's right below the video here. Don't I look relieved? So you can click on the Join Zoom button, and when you're over there, you can put your hand up using the little hand button, and Kelly will recognize you and turn on your microphone at the appointed time when you're up next. So let's start out with the written questions. Now, there were a couple questions here that were highly voted for about building density and height and the above surface. And as I understand it, as Malcolm was saying, that's the transit-oriented community, and that is what Engage Infrastructure Ontario is consulting on. So I'm not going to pose those questions tonight, not because Metrolinx doesn't want to deal with it, but it's not Metrolinx's responsibility in this case. It's Infrastructure Ontario. So for sure, go over to Engage.io. I believe they've just wrapped up their first set of town halls. They've got another set coming up, but you can see all of the recordings of the town halls that have already been held, and you can also register to attend future ones at engageio.com. So our first question for Metrolinx is train capacity. One of the big concerns is train capacity, and transit capacity depends on train size and also dwell time to load and unload passengers. To this end, has the Spanish solution been considered for major interchange stations? And here there would be 3 platforms, a side platform for each direction where passengers board, and a center platform where they disembark. Another option would be provisions for a longer station at the interchange stations. This way, a 120-meter train would have 100 meters of platform at most stations, with passengers knowing that the first car does not open doors north of Bloor and the last car south of Bloor. But at the interchanges, all the doors open. Either of these 2 ideas or both reduces the dwell time at the key interchange stations where it matters most. So can a wider train such as Canada Line be used to ensure maximum capacity, or are some of these innovations possible with the station?
Sure, Joseph. I can help with that. So yes, we do have 3 proponents that are coming to Canada with unique solutions for the train solutions, and they are coming with various lengths trains. So what we've done is we've modeled out 50 years. And it found that the trains that we're anticipating coming here running at 90-second headways will be able to accommodate the ridership that we're projecting. We're also using platform edge doors. Platform edge doors in and of themselves create a much better access and egress from the trains. They know precisely where the trains are going to stop each and every time. They know the doors that are going to open, and they stand to the side to allow people to get on and off. So there are a number of things that we can use. The train design headway of 90 seconds, the trains are actually designed to operate faster than that so that they can achieve 90-second headways. And that's not required throughout the entire day. The other thing that's available to us is that early in the operation of the Ontario line, they may not decide to run 5-car trains. They may decide to run 4-car trains and run them more frequently to be able to have the capacity, and then go up to 5-car trains when the ridership reflects that. So there are a number of things, and then you also replace vehicles, once every 30, 35, 40 years. And when we come to that point in time, we can also reconfigure the inside of the trains, and we can change the seating to be able to create more capacity. So there are a number of things that we can do. We have modeled all the interchange stations. Queen and Osgood in particular are stations that have extremely high ridership and high transfer rates, as does Pape and East Harbour. So we certainly have designed the stations to be able to accommodate. We haven't designed them with 3 platform configurations. Those become much wider stations, much more intrusive construction, much more expensive construction. But our modeling doesn't show that we need that. And the Ontario line is but one of 4 projects that are being implemented now, and it is not the end of transit investment in Toronto. Back to you, Joseph.
Thank you for that, Malcolm. While you're talking about stations, you've talked about capacity. We also have the experience, how we feel, what we experience when we're in the stations. And there's a question about that. Many of the newer stations elsewhere in town have exposed concrete walls and what seems to be cheaply done floors, stairs, walls, ceilings scattered throughout them. The interiors appear cold and don't present a great image to tourists, as not only to mention those of us who are riding. Can we be assured that the major downtown interchanges and stops near tourist zones, but otherwise, will have well-designed, lovely, and colorful interiors without the boring, ugly, gray, exposed, bare concrete pipes? Think more like the Elizabeth line in London and less like the Vaughan Extension or Ottawa downtown stations. So can you talk a bit about what the experience of the stations will be like and whether it will be, it's being designed to be an attractive experience, please?
Well, I can start with this one, and then I'll pass it to Aaron, who is our expert on that. But without a doubt, our stations are going to be as well lit as we can possibly have them, which creates a good, vibrant environment. We also have stations not in the downtown section, but in the eastern sections that are above grade, so they're you get the light of day very actively coming into them. So there's a mixture of typologies of construction across the Ontario line, which will make that in and of itself a very interesting ride and experience for the customer. But now I'll pass it to Aaron, and maybe you can talk about the architecture of the new stations.
Yeah, sure, Malcolm. The key part to the Ontario line really is around reforming and understanding some of the consistency of language throughout the journey. So there's been a lot of work that's gone into the design standards, etc., building upon the existing Metrolinx design standards and developing our own Ontario line design standards. So there is a design guide that creates this consistent language and enhances the passenger feel and comfort levels throughout the stations, but also, and what Malcolm just alluded to, is it's creating a better environment, more light, more friendly experience.
Okay, thank you for that. And I am reminded, because I was moderating that one as well, that for anybody who's really interested in the design for the stations, that in the most recent West segment open house that we did, that dealt extensively also with design. So if you were to just click over to that one and download the deck or watch the presentation, you can get more information that was the subject of that presentation as well. Sticking with stations for a second, and Moss Park in particular. In the previous session that we did, Malcolm, a questioner asked about the second entrance or exit at the Moss Park station. And they were a bit puzzled by the answer because they took away that the station would have 2 separate exit paths, but presumably only one entrance structure. Can you just explain that again? Is the plan to have a separate exit-only structure similar to the PAPE station, or how will that work?
So once again, I'll start the introduction and I will pass it over to Aaron. Moss Park Station has only one primary entrance and exit, and it's situated on the corner of Sherbourne and Queen Street on the northwest corner. And it really serves Moss Park very well. It links up well with the surface transit network, so it is the right location for our entrance structure. As for the emergency exit, which I think you're talking about, there is a provision for that, and I'll let Aaron elaborate on that.
Yeah, thanks, Malcolm. The key part with the Moss Park Head House, we really challenged ourselves to go with the one exit only. And the reason we did that was to take on board a lot of the city's interests and as well as the Moss Park revitalization project. So what the challenge was to integrate the fire life safety standards, etc., into the one head house, maintaining separations, maintaining all these other challenges that removes the need for the secondary exit. So there was a lot of the discussion with the city around how do we control that environment, how do we create the best location for the head house and the connectivity while not impacting the park in the other end of the station.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer.
Joseph,
yes.
maybe we just want to touch on the fact that we have the Federal Armory on the west end of the site. That was also a limitation. We had a very active engagement with the Ministry, the Department of Defense, and we found that their expectations of us were such that we couldn't impinge on their front lawn. But we were able to pass underneath it at depth. So, without a doubt, it was a body of work that we had undertaken with both the city, recognizing what their ambitions were for Moss Park, as well as the limitations that were set by the Department of National Defense. Back to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. So earlier in your presentation, you talked about closures, Queen Street. There's a question about construction hours of operation. And the questioner says that they live near one of the planned stations and want to know what the proposed days of the week and hours of operation for construction will be, particularly at street level, and the kind of thing that might cause noise or vibration that they would notice. They say there are thousands of condo residents in this area, and our lives are going to be significantly affected by this construction. So can you talk about the hours of construction and also what's being done to mitigate the impact on residents?
So what I'll do is I'll ask Richard to talk about the construction process, and then Franca can talk about the community outreach that goes hand in hand with our big construction projects. Richard?
Hi, Malcolm. Sorry about that. Just getting off mute. Yeah, so construction, I mean, the good news in terms of the construction in the downtown segment is that because a lot of the work is in tunnels in this part of the downtown, it's actually in the bedrock, and as such would have very little impact on the surface. Now, at the stations, of course, there's deep excavations that go into the bedrock at Moss Park and at Corktown Parliament Station, as well as at Queen. And these are where we'll have interface with the surface. And at these locations, Metrolinx has a very detailed construction program that addresses not only safety, but also noise and vibration for people who happen to be in those neighborhoods. And this involves a wide number of requirements about mitigations in terms of equipment selection, making sure we have the latest and the quietest equipment, the way work is carried out, the times of day work is carried out. And we have, first of all, a very detailed construction plan that's put in place beforehand, a noise and vibration plan that's reviewed and agreed with the contractors in advance, to make sure that even before we get on site, that these things have been thought through and the mitigations have been put in place. These also include set standards about maximum noise that can occur at any one time, maximum limits, and these are monitored in real time. And we have not only alert levels, but we have warning levels below that, by which we can monitor and record and know exactly if they're going over or if they're not going over, and exactly when and how that exceedance may have happened, or the fact that they're getting close to being at an alert level. We also have a 24-hour-a-day call center that will be advertised and is available to anybody who has a concern about noise or any other aspect of the construction in terms of dust or safety or any other concern they might have, the appearance of the site. So we have a very extensive program where the construction is above ground to make sure that residents' lives and the day-to-day actions in the community, day-to-day life of the community is interrupted as little as possible. With that,
Thank you very much for that, Richard. And I'm going to ask a question that I think is probably Franca. And when you talk about the 24-hour call-in line, and if a person is near there, and I think one of the questions that's a bit further down, but let me just raise it now, is Toronto Community Housing and whether people have been engaged from there, which raises the issue of, are you going to be doing something to make sure that people who are adjacent to the construction, right in the construction, close to the zone, will directly get things like the contact number, a flyer drop, or other things that are aimed at those people?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for that point of view as well, Joseph, coming on behalf of the person who sent in a question. I think all of these aspects are important. So, Richard has spoken already about some of the monitoring, some of the 24 hours, and that is also related to some of the zone of around the construction site where some of this monitoring will be in place. Another aspect that we haven't talked about yet is that there will be construction liaison committees. So we will be working with local residents. We'll be asking as we get a little closer to visible work and to the construction itself, for members to participate in monthly meetings where community concerns are raised, and where we can bring community members in direct contact with construction managers and site people. And sometimes this can mean something as simple as addressing a pedestrian issue and making sure that sidewalks are clear and the site can be accessed easily. At other times, it could be relating to noise. At other times, it could be a dust issue, and making sure that Metrolinx is working with both the constructor and construction partners, as well as the community, to address all of these kind of concerns that do come up on major construction projects. So there are a variety of tactics and tools that we are putting in place to make sure that all of these concerns will be raised. And then in terms of how that information will get out to the community at large, we already have seen, and you referenced earlier some technical difficulties. We've learned a lot during this pandemic time about how to reach people electronically, but we do recognize that there have to be a variety of formats. So we can also put in place walks, community walks, to go around and see with project team members and with constructors and with neighbors, what's going on. And then we can also have these discussions through the construction liaison committees, as I've referenced, and that is a commitment that we are holding the constructors to. That is in all of the project agreement documents, that those meetings will be occurring on a monthly basis. And we'll have to share it out through a variety of tools. So sometimes print directly through Canada Post, sometimes print may be distributed more locally by hand through community connectors and through people from the team representing the Metrolinx Ontario line, actually going door to door and speaking with neighbors and residents, making ourselves available in the parks where people are locally circulating around the construction sites. And all of these different aspects we will be putting in place.
Thank you for that. That's a lot of useful information. You talked about closures and provided a lot of information about Queen Street. Of course, people who come to these meetings are here to, we know we're talking about this area, and you talked about Queen. There's also the question of, will there be closures on Queen at Sherbourne, University, Spadina? Can you talk briefly about that, and if there's another place where I should get the information on those? Just let me know where I could go to get the information on those planned closures.
So once again, I can start. So when we were doing the modeling for the Queen Street closure, we looked at all the closures that were planned for the Ontario line, as well as the City of Toronto, the utilities, and the TTC in the area during the entire construction period till 2027, 2028. So, without a doubt, we did a very comprehensive long-term travel analysis of the traffic movements. We incorporated all of the shutdowns that are planned, including the work that's happening on the Gardiner, to make sure that we knew what the results of the closure at Queen and Yonge would occur and would cause. Throughout the alignment, there are lane reductions at other stations, but the form of construction at those stations is much different. And I'm going to let Richard talk about the construction there and how we're really minimizing the impact to the surface transit network and traffic through this very unique construction technique. Richard?
Hey, Malcolm, thanks very much. So essentially, it's a combination of cavern and open cut construction so that we are down in the bedrock. We're some 30 to 40 meters underground. We are anticipating using a combination of TBMs, which are tunnel boring machines, which are essentially large drills that move their way through the earth at a relatively slow rate, probably in the order of 10 meters a day or so. And then at caverns, we have what's called the sequential excavation method, which is using the machines called hedgehogs or road headers, which look like big spinning balls, which just basically chip away at the rock gradually over time. And it's done in a method that was developed in Austria, where they take sections out in a certain sequence, hence the name, sequential excavation method, so that they can build the cavern and develop it in a very stable and safe manner. What that allows us to do is to maintain the surface for traffic as much as possible, not disturb utilities and trees and sidewalks and all the other infrastructure that's on the surface. So these methods combine together to minimize the disruption to the surface network wherever possible. Now, of course, in certain places, it's just not possible, and Queen Street happens to be one of those locations where to actually get down there, we need to drill those shafts from the surface. And that's really because the four corners there are occupied by very substantial buildings, as everybody knows. We have the Eaton Center, and we have HBC, and we have Queen Street East buildings, all of which we couldn't move or remove to allow us to get access. So in those locations, we have to dig down. And as Malcolm said, we've done extensive traffic modeling in the area to ascertain the impact at this location. In the case of Moss Park and Corktown and Parliament, we have the opportunity to access those caverns from or open cut those locations in a way that doesn't disrupt the traffic at all. It doesn't impact the street directly. So that's essentially the way we try to use construction methods and innovative techniques to ensure a minimize disruption to the downtown. Back to you, Malcolm. Or Joseph.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Richard. We're going to do one more question from the written questions. And Frank, it's coming to you. And then we're going to go to Kelly in the Zoom room. And so once again, if you have just joined us, and if you'd like to ask your question out loud verbally, you can click on the yellow Join Zoom button that's right below the video that you're watching, and you'll go over, and Kelly Thornton will be there to be your moderator, and she will turn on your mic if you put up your hand when you're in order in which people arrive. So I wanted to ask one more question to you, Franca, because there is always concern by people affected. And there's one very direct question here. Moss Park business owners on Queen Street haven't heard anything from Metrolinx, and yet they you're going to disrupt the street, the neighborhood, and traffic. Have you contacted them? If someone hasn't been contacted yet, when can they expect to be contacted? And this is the business owners.
Sure. Thank you. So we use a variety of techniques as I identified, and we have even promoting this virtual open house, sent out materials by Canada Post, as well as other electronic means. And we are also speaking with neighbors as we can, as we reach them. We have had several contacts with some of the larger residents associations, but we know that there are others that we haven't yet been able to make a connection with. So we want to continue that connection. We want to answer those questions, and all of our contact information is readily available. We have a team of community relations specialists who are ready to answer. If we haven't yet been able to capture you in some of our outreach, we certainly will respond, and we can add you to lots of contact lists. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out electronically, but if you want to have a meeting in person, we're happy to do that as well, safely, of course. But we also are open to new contacts and looking for them all the time. It's a vibrant city. We know we haven't captured everyone yet, and we're certainly happy to make new connections.
Okay, thank you for that. And if you are one of those people who wants to talk to Metrolinx but hasn't yet been contacted, right at the top of your screen, there are two green buttons, two green menu items: book a meeting and contact us. And you can click on the book a meeting to book a meeting with a member of the Metrolinx team, or the contact us will allow you to submit an email right here, and it will get through to this team. So thank you for your answer, Franca. And for anyone who's on here, you don't have to wait. You can just right now register your desire to talk to people. So that, I think, that we've covered a lot of territory with the first set of questions, and I believe that Kelly has several people who are in the Zoom room who would like to ask questions. So with that, let me go over to Kelly, and hopefully the Zoom fates are smiling on us. And Kelly, are you there?
I'm here, Joseph. You hear me?
Very good. We can, loud and clear.
That's great. Well, we'll get right to it because we have 5 questions so far. And our first questioner is Jane.
We had you,
so
but
Jane,
now
you're
we
free
don't.
Oh, you don't hear me?
Well, there you go. I shouldn't have tempted the fates. I'm just going to ask, are any of the other panelists hearing the Kelly?
Hello.
Okay,
Can you
I
hear
do
me?
apologize. Oh,
Oh, am I there?
okay,
Am I back?
very good.
Yeah, you're there.
Is that what
Okay.
you want to do? You want to repeat the question?
Yeah, just a
Okay.
sec. So Jane, would you like to ask the question? And can you speak up, please?
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, sorry. My name's actually David. I'm using my
And for
wife
people
Jane's
who are on the
computer, so
website,
please don't tell her
you're
that I'm
not
using her
hearing the
computer.
question being asked, but someone in the Zoom room said that they will repeat the question so that our panelists can hear it.
That's
Okay,
great.
Joseph, here we go. So go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, the question I wanted to ask is the archaeological review of the Corktown site. The site is obviously of great importance to the story of Ontario. When will the archaeological review report be made public?
So did you hear that question, Joseph,
Okay,
or panel?
we just heard the last 7 words of, I think the last 7 words. It was something of me made public.
When will the archaeological report be made public?
Yes, I can answer that. We haven't conducted the archaeological investigation at Moss Park. That's part of the environmental assessment that's going to be issued in January. But what will be in that is our commitments to archaeological investigation. We've done the preliminary soundings that would happen normally with the early phases of the archaeology. and it's going to require us to do some further investigation, but we certainly will be issuing all the reports for archaeology. We actually find them very, very cool and interesting. And down at Corktown, for instance, we will absolutely have some very interesting results to be able to share with the public. So it's something which we will do, and we'll also use this as an opportunity for educational opportunities with some school-age children and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of good things that come out of the history and the archaeology that's going to happen as a result of the Ontario Line. Back to you, Marshall and Kelly.
Great. Thank you. Is that okay, David? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. I'll look forward to the report.
Okay, thank you so much. So next up, we have Waleed. And Waleed, you're welcome to unmute yourself now.
Thank you so much, my friend. I just want to thank you all for answering all those questions very thoughtfully. And my question, and just some context, I'm a community organizer that's supporting the Moss Park community. And there's a lot of residents, many of them TCHC, that haven't been engaged in this process in a meaningful way. And they would like to contribute because of the social impact that will be caused by the increase in density that will come to Moss Park by the introduction of this subway station. So my ask and my question is, can you folks commit to meeting with Moss Park residents, many of them who are marginalized, who really want an opportunity to express themselves as part of your consultation? So committing to a Moss Park working group. That is my ask on behalf of many residents that we've engaged through the Moss Park Community Benefits Coalition, to the various outreach initiatives that we've done since we've heard of the announcement of the TTC subway station in Moss Park.
Thanks, Waleed. I think the short answer to that will be
thank you.
yes.
Good question, and I'm gonna start it off, and Frank is going to certainly fill in the engagement part. But the fact is that the Moss Park station is cited specifically to be able to collect ridership from priority neighborhoods that need higher order transit and use higher order transit. So the Moss Park station is an opportunity for that corner of Sherbourne and Queen to become animated and vibrant, and access to the park to become better. And then there's the investment that happens as a result of transit in the community. And those are all going to be very positive outcomes for the community. As for engagement with your volunteers, I'm excited when you talk about that, and I'm going to pass it over to somebody who's probably even more excited, Franca.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yes, I do get excited about this kind of thing. So yes, certainly, we want to meet with you, Waleed, and your neighbors. As I identified, I think we know that there are folks that we haven't yet spoken with or had a chance to meet, and we are growing our list, and we're growing our contacts. So certainly we'll be happy to speak with you and to give you a better sense of what the concept is and what the plan is, and how the different things that are going to be happening in the neighborhood will fit together. Because I think today we've also identified just how much is going on in the neighborhood, and all of the different uses. And so we know that there are all sorts of consultations going on about all sorts of different things, and it can get a little bit confusing. So we want to make sure that we're coordinating as much as possible, and we'll work with city colleagues, and we'll work with you and your neighbors, and we'll keep making sure that we find new contacts to speak with, and we'd certainly be happy to speak with you.
And Kelly, could I make sure that you get Waleed's contact information so that we can reach out to him and begin that engagement? I hope he's still on the line. If he's not, Waleed, please give us a call. The numbers are at the end of these presentations, or send us an email, and we'll absolutely get in touch with you. Thank you for And
That's great.
and
Thanks.
thank you
Yeah,
for
we have
coming to
Waleed's.
us with
We
your ideas for more consultation. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have Waleed's contact information. So thank you again, Waleed. Next up, we have Mike. Mike, you're free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, everyone. So my question about the Corktown construction, I believe you did not specify the timeline for this construction in your presentation. So I would like to know, so when are you planning to start the demolition? When are you planning to start the digging? And the extent of the demolition is the second question. So I believe you'll probably remove the Staples building, and are you also removing the Porsche dealership at the same time, or that would come later? So just could you talk me through the construction timeline, please?
Okay, I can do that, Mike. So we are doing some demolition in order to enable the archaeology. The archaeology is the first thing that we have to get done on the site. At the same time, while we're doing the archaeology, we're measuring for the volatile organics, the contamination that's in the site. We're quite expecting it to be quite contaminated. Because of the past history of the site with the consumer's gas gasification plant. The demolition is going to be happening before the end of the year for that Staples building, because there are trenches that we have to dig that are specifically located in areas where there's high potential for archaeology. And then we go in and we have archaeologists and representatives from the city, First Nations, Ministry of Heritage, as well as ourselves and our consultants that actually perform the archaeological dig and start looking at what's there and again, what the level of contamination is. So the work is starting there very shortly, immediately. And we've actually done a small dig in an area that was open. And it once again, we found that there was high levels of contamination there that we're working through. But you know, it is an exciting time because of the history that's on this site, from the Indigenous eras right straight through to the current era. So, no, we're excited, and it's happening now. And this archaeology work has to be completed in order for the South Civils contractor to come in 2023, begin construction. Hopefully that answers your question, Mike.
Is that good, Mike? Okay, moving on. I'm going to ask Hayden to unmute yourself now, please.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. So hello, listeners, thank you for the presentations. I'm a student at Verizon University studying urban and regional planning. So I just have two questions. First question is, like, this is the last round of like presentation for the Ontario line, like for this round. And it seems like Metrolinx has forgot Oscar Station. Like, is it the presentation slides for Oscar Station, or will Metrolinx decide to put one up for next week? The second question is in regards to the Queen stations. I guess from a user design perspective, it will need to take 4 escalators to go up from the Ontario line to the TTC platform. And I just want to ask why the last set of escalators is going in opposite direction, which seems kind of counterintuitive, requiring people to walk even longer to get to the TTC platform. Is there any technical limitation that is like resulting in this design?
Okay, I'm going to answer the first one, and our public engagement is going to be continuous all the way through construction into implementation and operations of the line. So, you know, Metrolinx is going to be here throughout this entire period, our goal is to make sure that all of the communities are very well informed about the construction that's going to be happening, the progress against commissioning and eventual opening of the line, and then the exciting news that happens as a line is in operation. So absolutely engagement. This is not the last. This is, we've been doing this for 6 or 8 months now, and even longer. Since before COVID, when we first did some public meetings, but it's an ongoing dialogue, and we hope that everyone will remain engaged and interested in it. As for the vertical circulation, Aaron, I'm going to tax your memory and see if we can pull together that cryptic message that we got to understand that how we transfer, I guess, between line 1 and the on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key part to Queen Station and how it would operate the Ontario line is that the user experience is very similar to that used today. So going into the station, we use very similar locations for entrances, which means we go down very similar escalators for the TTC line 1, but we also have an offshoot that goes on the side, which is the Ontario line, escalators, elevators, etc. Now, the connectivity between the two lines has been a key focal point for the design of the station. So going from TTC line 1 down to the Ontario line platforms, which are some 15 meters deeper than the TTC, there are various routes and different ways and wayfinding routes to go through to those areas. The orientation and the way the escalators operate, either up or down, the existing TTC station maintains very similar to what it is today. And a lot of that's around reducing impacts on the station during construction and the ridership during that piece, but also the complementary piece for the Ontario line. So maintaining similar vertical transportation, but adding complementary piece with adequate transfers and just to reduce travel times, etc.
Yeah, thank you for that. But you didn't actually answer my first question. My first question is, out of the 5 presentations for the past few weeks, there isn't any presentation on the Oscar station. It seems like Metrolinx forgot Oscar station.
Yep. No. So we will come out with another a virtual open house to talk about Osgood Station, Queen and Spadina. So without a doubt, we run through every station. We wanted to do these 3 stations tonight, and what we tried to do is we tried to have a half-hour presentation with an hour of questions, in order to just have a good dialogue. Hayden, if you have any questions, give us a call, and we're more than happy to answer anything that you might have.
Yeah,
do you mind if I jump in for a second on that too? I think there's a lot of information which is available online already. I think Joseph already kind of referenced that earlier in the presentation, where somebody was asking design questions, and we recently at one of these virtual open houses had some architects speaking through some of the design. So I mean, we're trying our best to sort of space out lots of information, and we're doing these open houses on a regular basis. So we started last fall, then we went into the spring, and then we kind of picked up the pace. And since the spring, we've been doing them more regularly. June, now this is September/October. We'll be doing one more set before the end of the year. So we're really kind of picking up the pace of getting out and trying to get folks to learn more about the project. And I think the other part of it is that we are doing this through a different kind of contract than some folks may be used to. And so I know sometimes when you come to a consultation, everybody's used to looking at like a picture or a rendering of what it's going to look like, and we're not always able to share the kind of detail that maybe might be anticipated, and that is because some of that architectural detail is going to come out through the bid process. So there is now a tender and different groups who are going to be responding to that. and who are going to be actually finalizing the design to bring it from all of these specifications and different kind of pieces and rationales that we're making to ensure design excellence, but then we don't actually have a final product, and we still won't for some time, for about a year. So it's difficult to balance creating awareness and making sure that folks know what's coming without being able to show them exactly what's coming, because that's still being developed. So we're trying to find a balance, and we're trying to kind of get out more frequently. And we really hope that you'll continue to join us at some of these meetings.
Great, thank you. And thanks again, Hayden. So panel, do you mind if we just take a step back? When Mike was asking his question a couple of questioners ago, he was cut off accidentally. So he wanted to follow up and ask the pointed question about wanting to know if the car dealership, the Porsche dealership, adjacent to the Staples will be demolished, and if so, when might that happen?
So the entire site will be demolished of all buildings, and the site will be leveled. It's going to happen between now and the early spring of next year, when the whole site is dug up for archaeological work. So that's going to happen over the next 4 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up we have M. Scarfo. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, please do now and ask your question.
Thank you very much for this excellent session. The question I have is a construction question, and it relates to Queen Street East and the corner with Yonge and the two buildings, 1 Queen Street East and 2 Queen Street East, and it's about parking. We're curious as to whether the underground parking lots will remain functional in these 2 commercial buildings, because we're sitting right on top of the construction site. You've covered everything, and this would be the only question that we're asked as tenants in 2 Queen Street East.
Thanks. Over to you, Malcolm.
Yeah, I can answer that if you'd like, Malcolm. Well, yes, when we planned the closure of Queen Street, the access to the parking and loading docks for all those major buildings in that area are not affected by our construction or are closed, so they'll be accessed at all times and will be fully available to the tenants. There is, in the case of I think 2 Queen East, the one on the southeast corner, there is some work required in the very northeast corner of the garage, which would be minor, and it's localized in nature to the garage, but would not cause the entire garage to be shut. It is basically just right in that northeast corner of the garage for some access and ventilation works. Other than that, as tenants, you should be able to keep enjoying the full use of the loading docks and the full use of the parking garage, and so I think you're in good shape there.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Joseph.
Great, thanks. And last question right now in the Zoom room, we have Lucas. So Lucas, you're welcome to unmute yourself.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can.
Okay, I have a few little parts of my question, if I may ask. Like it's kind of all part of the same kind of topic, if I may ask. First, how many of those autonomous trains is there going to be? The Metrolinx plan to buy for this Ontario line? Is these autonomous trains going to be, how are they going to be looking like? Are they going to be like the autonomous trains of the REM system in Montreal, or is it different design, and if there's any pictures online or renderings for the public to see how it's going to look like.
Thanks, Lucas. Over to the panel.
Okay, Lucas, I can answer most of your question. So our train yard, our maintenance and storage facility is designed for 44 trains plus 10. And that are for future purchase. We're working with a contract called a ROSM contract, which is the Rolling Stock Systems Operations and Maintenance Contract. And we have 3 proponents that are from worldwide organizations that are competing for the work. We have 3 vehicle suppliers vying for the work as part of this. And their rolling stock is their standard rolling stock that will suit the standard gauge rails and the specifications that we've put forward. What they're going to do is they're going to develop over the period of time of their concession period when they're going to be operating the Ontario line, a fleet management strategy. And that fleet management strategy will allow them to fluctuate the number of trains throughout the day, fluctuate the trains each year, and be able to deliver to Toronto the level of service that we're looking for. So we're waiting for that to close at the end of the year to see what the operational plans are. The trains are going to be subway type vehicles. They're up to 3 meters wide. We've designed our tunnels for the full subway type vehicle, and that's all coming. They're certainly not small vehicles by any means. How they link them up, whether they're 3, 4, 5 car consists, that's still being evaluated by ROSM, but they do have to have the ability to run the complete 100-meter trains, 90 seconds, and 90-second headways as part of their contract. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, and can I, what are the top speed of these trains when they're going, the top speed of them?
So our design speed, it really depends on the proponent, but we're modeling between anywhere 80 to 90 kilometers per hour, which is the top speed that we would expect in an environment like this. Our curves have been designed to accommodate that. That work is, again, all part of the rolling stock systems operation and maintenance contractor, but it is a full high-speed automated system that's going to be operating. We've got enough distance between stations to be able to get up to speed and down to speed, and again, fully automated, so the human error of acceleration and deceleration are all taken into account, as well as the platform edge doors to make sure it's a safe operation. So it's all happening. It's all exciting. It's going to be new to Toronto, and it's going to be something wonderful to see. Back to you, Kelly.
Thanks, Malcolm. Thank you, Lucas. Next up, we have Peter. You can unmute yourself now, Peter.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Could you say something, please, about the impact on the Hudson Bay store at Yonge and Queen, which has a whole sales floor below grade? That's my question.
Yeah, do you want me to answer that, Malcolm?
Absolutely, Richard. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, you are correct. There is an impact on the Hudson's Bay store on the lower level there. We all know of the exciting food court and other sales that are down there. And we have been in close contact with Hudson's Bay and been discussing what the impact is there. As we know, it's a bit of a congested area today. And as part of the Ontario line work, we will be reconfiguring that entrance from Hudson's Bay into that tunnel that goes underneath Queen Street and accesses the TTC. That area will be expanded, and enhanced with additional stairways, updated elevators, and various other, and basically a large kind of fare hall, if you will, for accessing Ontario Line and for accessing Line 1. So pretty exciting upgrades there. There'll also be some upgrades to accessing the Cadillac Fairview Eaton Center on the north side as well. And we're also in discussions with Cadillac Fairview for that part. So very exciting upgrades to that very well used tunnel down there. So it's a great question. Thank you,
Richard, and
yeah.
Just a little more. So the path network's going to be maintained as part of it, as well. The bridge that goes over Queen Street between the Eden Center and the Hudson Bay will remain open during the construction period.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Peter. We have one last question in the room here, and it will go to Nick. Nick, you can unmute yourself now.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. I'm part of the Garden District Residents Association, so our interest is primarily in the Moss Park station. You had mentioned earlier that an arborist had evaluated the trees on the south side of the park where the station platform cut will be made, and I guess indicated that there were issues with some or many of the trees in that area, which is extremely unfortunate. But I believe you mentioned that you'll be bringing in your own arborist to do a separate evaluation. Those trees are very precious to us. They're kind of an integral part of a park that's frankly had a lot of abuse lately. And I guess my question is, if your arborist comes back and says, no, actually those trees are quite healthy and worth preserving, is there anything you can do to preserve them the way your plan is currently laid out as far as how the station and the platforms are going to be constructed?
Yeah, it's a good question. Malcolm?
Well, I can start this. So yeah, without a doubt, we are going to have our own arborist come in and do an evaluation of the trees. We're quite expecting that with the time between the TTC arborist report and this one, that the health of the trees has not likely improved, but that's yet to be determined. What we can do is when we do remove trees, we have plantings that the sooner we can do them, the better it is. A real dialogue with the City of Toronto Parks and Forestry and Recreation will yield to us where we can plant trees, where we can plant them sooner, and we will do that. They may also want to change some of the programming spaces in the park to better suit the community that it serves. So without a doubt, we are going to be building the Moss Park station in this location, and we will be doing plantings in the future and creating different and new programming spaces coordinated with the City of Toronto. We actually, when we do cut a tree down, we plant 3 trees in replacement, and like I said, the sooner we plant those trees, the more mature they'll be when we do open the station. So back to you, Joseph.
Well, I think, Kelly, you said that was the last question, and that brings us right about to the top of the hour. So I want to thank everybody who participated by submitting written questions or in the Zoom room. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Kelly. Again, this is part of a process. It's not the end. So check back here. There will be a recording of tonight's session tomorrow morning that you'll be able to look at. And the questions that have been submitted online, Metrolinx has been responding to all of the topic areas. So you'll be able to see responses to the questions if you didn't hear them tonight. Again, thank you, everyone. You can check back here for future meetings. You can contact Metrolinx by clicking on the buttons or book a meeting. And thank you again. And please stay home and stay safe. Good night.
you.